Alright guys, we're going to cover the next section of the course. We're going to cover the basics of what soft washing is. So any professional pressure washer or power washer is going to have two main tools in his arsenal. He's going to have the pressure of the water, and then he's going to have a soft wash kit. So he can have that in a few different ways, but let me just briefly explain what soft washing is exactly. So what you're doing is you're actually using chemicals and low pressure to clean exterior surfaces. So you're going to be cleaning things like houses, walls, roofs. You can even use it to clean the driveways and sidewalks. In fact, it's better if you do that because it kind of softens the process. Once you hit it with pressure, then it will look completely clean. But soft washing is basically you have to use a totally different set of equipment. And instead of using a very powerful pump, you're using a 12-volt electrical pump. Now, there's different types of things that you can use. You can use an all-flow system. This is more powerful. You're going to need an air compressor. This is about $2,000, $3,000 system. When you're just starting and you're getting used to it, you kind of have to start with something I would say in business, small. Make sure that it works before you upgrade. You can upgrade. Having a bigger and more powerful system, it will work a little bit more efficiently. It will be a little bit more reliable. But honestly, a 12 volt is really all you'll ever need. If it breaks down, you buy a new one. They're not that expensive. They're about 120 bucks or so. Let me show you what they look like. So the actual pump, it looks like this. And you have the intake right here, and then it goes out to the hose. The hose has to be a special kind of hose. It has to be a soft wash hose. This is not a regular hose. Now remember that the chemical that you're using is chlorine, also known as sodium hydrochlorite, also known as bleach. Bleach dissolves organics. It dissolves things. If you use a regular garden hose, it will eat it up. So you have to use one that's kind of like this. And you want to make sure it says soft wash hose so that it will last longer. Once you have a soft wash hose, then you can connect it up to the pump. And again, this is what that pump looks like. And you can build your own where it's a portable system. So in this case, the chemical is going to be inside here. The pump is right here. It takes some work to build it, but it's definitely worth it because this is going to save you a ton of work. And this is where you're going to get really powerful, clean looking surfaces. You do have to be careful that you're wearing the proper protective equipment when you're using this. You have to use your goggles, you have to use gloves, and you have to use boots and kind of protective clothing because you don't want to get too much chlorine on you. If you do get it on you, you can rinse it off with water. But remember, it dissolves organics, so you don't want to be part of that. All right? Then when you use the soft wash, you have to make sure to rinse it off thoroughly. That way, it's not sitting there and it's not eating any paint or discoloring anything. You kind of have to use it very carefully. And I'm going to go over this in the course, how to use it carefully and properly. But it actually is quite powerful. So you got to be mindful of where you're cleaning, what you're cleaning, how you're cleaning it. But soft wash versus power washing, it's less water, it's gentler on surfaces, you can clean delicate materials with it, and you're using a different type of gun. You're actually using a gun that looks more like this. This is where the soft wash hose connects to, and if you want to, you can actually use just a pump sprayer to begin with. And you're going to use mostly water. You're going to have chlorine maybe to about here. And the chlorine you get, we're going to cover that in a later lesson. But it's going to be 1 or 2 or 3%. It's going to be pretty weak. But when you spray it, you'll see that you're just dissolving dirt every which way. And it's a very powerful part of the business. I would totally recommend it. If you're not able to build a rig like this, that is a little bit more complicated. And this is kind of like how they get assembled. They break down, you buy spares. But I would go to a place called Pressure Washer Services, or anywhere that's near you that comes up on a Google search for pressure washer services. That way you can get something like this assembled without you having to be, a mechanic. But you definitely want that. You want that soft wash hose. You want a chemical tank. There's the 12 volt. It's typically called a 12 volt in the business. And you assemble it like this. You screw the holes. You put the intake assembly. You have the fittings. You have the right hose. And you're off to the races. But it's definitely worthwhile having. And I'm going to show you physically how it looks in a future lesson. But I just want you to be aware of what this is. And so for now, that's soft washing in a short video. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. We're going to be using it. All right, on to the next.